Thank you, LF, and good evening. We're here tonight primarily to honor the past, to recognize and honor personal histories of two living leaders and one legendary alumnus, 3 lives dedicated to public service. We also celebrate the past accomplishments and the 75th anniversary of a remarkable State Department program for intellectual foreign aid. But tonight, we also look to the future. We have with us this week in Charlottesville 50 visiting leaders who join us as a fine example of State Department international exchange programs. These guests come to us from some 45 countries. Among them, we should note young leaders from 20 nations, countries like Afghanistan, Malawi, Iraq, Venezuela, who are visiting the Presidential Precinct as part of the State Department's International Visitors Leadership Program, or IVLP. This morning, they joined us for a global leadership forum at the university. For 2 days, we are discussing together leadership, the rule of law, economic development, entrepreneurship, climate issues, and women's and minority rights. Though shorter than we'd like, this week's programs are good examples of how the precinct is playing a role on the global stage. The Presidential Precinct, as you see in your program, is a joint enterprise between the University of Virginia, College of William and Mary, Thomas Jefferson's Monticello, James Madison's Montpelier, James Monroe's Highland, and UVA's Morven. Think of the precinct in this context. Some 2,400 years ago, Aristotle wrote, "At his best, man is the noblest of all animals. Separated from law and justice, he is the worst." The precinct's mission is to provide a forum, a physical site and 21st century digital forum, a forum where young leaders can study, debate, and collaborate around Aristotle's ancient but timely issues of law and justice. At the precinct, we focus especially on young but proven, aspiring leaders who may not yet be part of the system, but rather are determined to build a better system, more just societies. The precinct's mission is to help young leaders promote the noblest instincts, law and justice, among their fellow citizens. The precinct is young, just 3 years old. Yet in 3 years since we hosted our first international guests, we've grown rapidly. Since 2013, we've hosted approximately 1,500 people from 100 countries. Last year alone, we hosted over 200 young leaders from more than 60 nations, attending 14 different precinct programs. Our foreign guests are here tonight to help us recognize the 75th anniversary of IVLP. Over 75 years, this program has hosted tens of thousands of people across the U.S. Many of these visiting leaders have gone on to exemplary leadership. Secretary Ryan told us this morning that 433 IVLP guests have become prime ministers or presidents of their country over that 75 years. "78 have won Nobel Prizes. Alumni include foreign ministers, ambassadors, CEOs, directors of NGOs. IVLP is easily one of the most effective and influential foreign policy programs ever conceived by our government or any government. For 75 years, with the encouragement of leaders like Secretary Albright, the IVLP programs have grown as a positive global influence, introducing young leaders from every nation to the U.S. and often to principles of self-government that were new to them. So let us recognize our visiting leaders and have them stand now to help us salute the 75th anniversary of the State Department's exchange program. Would you please stand? Our 20 guests. Thank you. I'd also like to recognize a few of the many here tonight who have helped take the Presidential Precinct from concept to reality in such a short period of time. With apologies for some oversight and some apologies for following up with LF and President Sullivan, I've got to name a few names. As I call your name, would you please stand? We'll start with President Taylor Reevely of William & Mary. Vice Provost, why don't we hold our applause until we've gone through the whole list? Stand and stay standing. Vice Provost Steve Hansen of William & Mary. Stuart Gamage of Morven. Leslie Green Bowman of Monticello. Sarah Bon Harper of Highland. Sean O'Brien of Montpelier. Nancy Hopkins of the Precinct. And some of our earliest and strongest supporters, Frank Atkinson of the UVA Board of Visitors, Francois Baird of our Precinct Board, Lisa Collis, Renee Grisham, Ann Kingston from the Bama Works Fund, Gil Minor, Chairman of the State Council for Higher Education, Phil Wendell, Ann Ellis of AECOM, Greg Fairchild of UVA's Darden School, and David Toscano, our delegate. Thank you all. Finally, thanks to Alan Goodman, President of the Institute for International Education, and to the State Department's ECA Bureau, and to the Global Ties US for their help in bringing our international visitors here this week. Though I love to talk about it and would like to tell you much more about the Precinct and our programs, there's a better way. We've arranged for you to meet the Precinct's best spokespeople in two ways. First, a short video.
We started with this really amazing concept. Could two of the best public universities in America, the University of Virginia and William & Mary, band together with 4 historic sites and together form a presidential precinct and do together what we were not able to do apart?
We founded the Precinct with the belief that the studies of Jefferson, Madison, Monroe were worth sharing with the rest of the world.
We want this to be a gathering place for emerging leaders in civil societies, for government officials, for business people, for academics. And in fact, we want to mix all of those together because addressing the problems today requires action on the part of many parties, not just a few.
The world is changing very, very quickly. It's an uncertain time, and having a stable base like the presidential precinct where people can come and really debate freely key ideas about the future of human freedom, I think is very valuable for the world.
The presidential precinct laid in front of us a crowded canvas of opportunities, from the slave narratives of Ashland Highland to the ideas of independence at Monticello, on to the constitution-making and democratic governance at Montpelier. There couldn't have been a finer blend of cultural orientation, civic and entrepreneurial education, and leadership stimulation. So I believe that back home, we should be able to harness all of these and then make sure that our action, our interventions translate into values which we brought from the presidential precinct.
These foreign exchange programs are just a phenomenal return to the American people. First of all, a lot of the money ends up getting spent here in the United States, which is important for local economies. But far more important is the investment in future leaders and how they see and understand the United States and the relationships built. And there's just tremendous value in these programs.
I think in 5 years, the presidential precinct will be really the top of mind place for the State Department and other governments for training and facilitating. We will become really one of the preeminent executive training institutes for civil servants throughout the world because we are able to integrate those universities and historic sites. We have a lot of learning. The power of ideas are matched well with the power of place here at the presidential precinct.
Power of place.
Power of place.
Power of place.
Power of ideas.
Power of ideas.
Presidential precinct.
The presidential precinct.
The presidential precinct. That video tells a part of the precinct story, and I have to add parenthetically, that highly professional video was prepared by a 4th-year student at the University of Virginia. By himself. But we can do even better than a video. It's my great pleasure to introduce to you Oluwatoyosi Ogunseye. Toyosi, will you please come up? And Neil Piper. Neil, would you join us? Toyosi, you are one of the leading lights in Nigeria. Not only are you the first female editor in the history of the newspaper Sunday Punch, but you have the distinction of being the paper's youngest ever editor. Through your shining example, you inspire your writers to produce accurate news stories, stunning investigative journalism, and thoughtful analysis. You are advancing freedom of information in Nigeria. Your work is helping produce a better informed and more engaged young electorate. I encourage everyone to read more about Toyosi in tonight's program. Toyosi, you were one of the few selected from among tens of thousands of young Africans who applied for the Mandela Washington Fellows Program through the State Department. And tonight, from amongst all who have studied here, we single you out for special recognition. We were lucky that you ended up here 2 years ago, studying with us at the Presidential Precinct. Through your work, you have demonstrated the courage, conviction, and ambition needed to provide a positive influence on Nigeria's future and on the future of the African continent. For all this, we are proud to call you a Precinct alumnus, and we honor you. Neil?
Toyosi, on behalf of the Presidential Precinct, it is my distinct honor to present to you the Young Leader Award.
Thank You will hear more from Toyosi in a few minutes. Thank you.
It's a huge honor and privilege to stand on this stage to receive the Presidential Precinct Young Leader Award. It's the biggest honor of my life. I thank God, my family, friends, and colleagues for their love, understanding, and support for me and what I do. When I got a call from Neil Piper, Managing Director of the Presidential Precinct, informing me of my selection for the award, I was totally flabbergasted. Tears trickled down my eyes because it was humbling to know that as I do what I do best in my little corner in Nigeria, the world sees my efforts. What I do daily with my team is to make the lives of Nigerians better through quality journalism. From health stories that force government to build toilets for primary schools, to justice stories that ensure that young girls that were kidnapped for months are released, I'm constantly in search of bringing positive changes to my environment. When I'm rewarded for that, like tonight, it reinforces my belief that I'm on the right path, and this encourages me to trudge on. This award is a victory for everyone that supported me on this often lonely journey. My ever-supportive parents and siblings who are understanding of my unpredictable schedule, the management of Punch newspapers who believe very much in me, and my wonderful friends. It is often said that blood isn't always family. Family are the people who want you in their lives and accept you the way you are. Family are the ones who will do anything to make you smile and will love you no matter what. I consider the Presidential Precinct, made up of the University of Virginia, the College of William and Mary, Morven, Montpelier, Montello, and Ashland, and including the United States Department of State family. Thank you for being a part of my life. In 2014, I was a fellow of President Obama's Mandela Washington Fellowship for Young African Leaders at the Presidential Precinct. Charlottesville was my home for 5 weeks, and the fellowship totally turned my life around. I returned to my country a better and more effective leader. The networks I built and formed during the fellowship continue to serve me well till today. Exchange programs like YALI, IVLP, and others that the United States Department of State are committed to in all ramifications and not just for fun's sake. These programs produce leaders like me and thousands of others on the African continent and beyond. I'd like to thank everyone that supported the Presidential Precinct with their resources. I'm a testimony that your resources are being put to good use. So many young leaders like me are indebted to you forever. You may never meet thousands of lives that are beneficiaries of your kindness, but be assured that great deeds are being done with your resources. Tonight is for women. It's an incredible honor to share the same stage with Honorable Madeleine Albright. I grew up reading about how she's dedicated her life to the emancipation of women and promotion of humanity. I'm humbled that I get to meet this great heroine and learn from her. Her presence in this room gives me great strength, and I hope that it inspires all women, and including men all over the world. I'm optimistic that tonight we'll move a step closer to gender equality, the promotion of human rights, justice, the rule of law, democracy, and a civil world. I dedicate this award to everyone that's helped me on this journey. I dedicate this award to everyone that's made me a better person. Thank you.